Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I am talking to all of you perfectionists out there. And I know you're out there because I see you in my office every week. I am talking to those of you who have a really hard time accepting missteps or perceived failures or imperfections. Those of you who are all or nothing about the way you see progress or success. You are my audience today, and I know there are a lot of you out there. So listen up, because today we're going to talk about a really simple 3-step plan that I created to beat perfection. The point of this conversation today is that life is about progress, not perfection. I want you to get to a place where you can succeed and thrive without believing that it's all or nothing. So there are 3 letters that I want you to remember, and the way I ordered them is the word ARG, because I know that my perfectionists out there have a really hard time wanting to make changes in this area of their life because they've seen it as being somewhat beneficial to them in some way, shape, or form. So I will teach you how to keep success high and keep perfection or rigidity in your thinking low. All right, let's start. So A stands for awareness and acceptance. Step 1 is to build your awareness. I want you to start noticing when you feel rigid about your success, or when you start to have thoughts that are all or nothing, which is an example of a cognitive distortion. When you have thoughts that are all or nothing, you leave yourself very little, really zero, space for flexibility, for accepting shades of gray, for even seeing progress of any kind along the way. It's a huge problem because you're not going to be able to acknowledge your success, and you're going to keep getting in your way by perpetuating this vicious cycle of perfectionism. So awareness is key. Start to identify all of the thoughts that trigger your perfectionism and the behaviors that you engage in. Like, are you somebody that has to be 20 minutes early to an appointment? Or are you somebody who writes and rewrites emails over and over again before sending them? Are you somebody that needs to get an A on a test or else you believe you failed? What are these behaviors that are keeping perfectionism alive? Just notice them. Don't judge them, notice them. The acceptance piece is really probably a little bit different than you think. The acceptance piece is about you accepting that this is potentially a problem, that this system you're engaging in isn't actually getting you to where you want to be in life. It's really not helping you reach your goals. It's not helping you combat obstacles. It's not helping you see and appreciate your successes along the way. It's really a vicious cycle that tends to make us feel discouraged and disappointed and sometimes even worthless. Like, why bother? If I can't be perfect, I'm not going to bother. I know there are those of you out there who are my perfectionists that tend to procrastinate. So you won't even engage in a project unless you know you can do it perfectly. This is a problem because the project never gets done. And we feel so much better about our sense of accomplishment and self-worth if we're trying to check off those boxes for self-growth and we're trying to reach our goals. So A, awareness and acceptance. And the acceptance piece is really about this being a problematic cycle that you are willing to participate in overcoming or breaking. R stands for reframe reality. So what I want you to do is, now that you can identify those trigger thoughts that perpetuate the perfectionism, I want you to identify ways to reframe that way of thinking. And the reframe of reality comes down to 2 time points in your thought process. The first time point is at the expectation setting level. This is when we say it's all or nothing. If I don't get an A, then I'm a failure. Instead of setting such rigid high expectations of yourself, which, by the way, are largely unreachable and unreasonable, what if we were to reframe that by using reality and say something along the lines of, I'd love to get an A. I studied really hard. I hope I do. If I don't, I might feel disappointed, but I can acknowledge that I succeeded and got a B and not a D, or I didn't fail at least. How can we reframe the rigidity in our thinking that allows for some flexibility, allows for some shades of gray, and allows us to cultivate more of an environment of gratitude and acknowledging our small successes and progress along the way. That's the expectation level. When it's all or nothing, we're setting ourselves up to fail, and perfectionists hate to fail. If we can instead reframe it and say, what would good enough look like? If I could just get the kitchen cleaned, would that be good enough, or does it have to be the entire house by 5 o'clock today? If I could just pass this exam, would that be good enough? Could that be good enough for me? Or does it really have to be all or nothing? Is it really an A or bust? Try to create some space for flexibility in your thinking. That's huge. That's huge when it comes to reframing reality. We use the truth. We use reasonable, achievable expectations to set the stage. Now we won't feel like there's so much pressure to avoid failure, because it's more likely that we'll actually accomplish those goals or accomplish those expectations. The second level that we reframe our reality is at the response to imperfection. So the way we cope with imperfection, the way we cope with our flaws, the way we cope with perceived failures, that all happens up here. So if you can get to a place in your mind where not only the expectation level at the beginning, but the coping level at the end, if you're able to be flexible there and more acceptance-based, you will feel as though you are making significant strides in your work without beating yourself up along the way. So reframe reality is number 2 of this 3-step plan. Acceptance and awareness, reframe reality, both, it's really all at the cognitive level, so it's really at the expectation and then at the coping with imperfections at the end. And then the third component I really want you to work on and cultivate is G. This is good enough and gratitude. What would it look like, honestly, in a reality-based world, reasonable expectations, to be good enough, to feel good enough, to believe in yourself, to accept who you are, to engage in self-compassion, to stop the comparison trap? What would good enough look like for you? So I want you to give some thought to exercises that you can integrate into your daily life to challenge some of your perfection. Like, if you're 20 minutes early to a doctor's appointment, typically, can you be 5? Can you be on time? If you need to get an A to feel good enough, can you challenge that and allow a B or an A- or a B+? If you are somebody who tends to write and rewrite emails over and over again before you send them, can you be somebody that challenges yourself on certain days to just read it twice and send it on its way and hope for the best? You reread it twice. I'm sure it's fine. So what does good enough look like? And I want you to visualize that. Now remember, good enough also integrates a quality of life issue that we really haven't touched on too much with this idea of perfectionism. When we're being perfect, when we're trying to be perfect, which by the way isn't attainable, so we can just literally throw it out the window. It's not a realistic option for us, so we can stop trying. But what we forget is that the toll it takes on our quality of life is pretty significant. So if you're able to focus on what does good enough look like, both up here, what my head tells me, and my behaviors, we're going to cultivate a much more nurturing environment to goal achievement, satisfaction, and success. The gratitude piece comes in, and again, this is one of those things that you can integrate into any area of your life, and it would be helpful. So it's easy, it's super simple, and it's going to help you feel a lot more at peace and grounded and calm in your life. Gratitude, when it comes to perfectionism, is going to be taking every opportunity we can to see and acknowledge something in that interaction or in that instance of your life that you can feel grateful for. Like, I'm grateful I got a B and I didn't fail. Or I'm grateful I took the time to send that email to my friend that's long overdue. Even though I didn't look it over 10 times, it doesn't need to be ready for publishing for me to feel grateful that I got that out there. Or I'm grateful that I did a quick sweep of the kitchen because it feels better to come home to a tidy kitchen. I didn't have to do a deep clean today. This feels good enough, and I'm grateful that I took the time to do it. Gratitude is going to be a key to your success when it comes to combating perfectionism. So ARG, awareness and acceptance, reframing reality, and good enough gratitude. Practice those 3 skills, integrate them into your daily life, and you will start to see so many more opportunities to feel successful, to acknowledge your progress, to feel confident in the work that you're doing on yourself, both in your professional and your personal life. And you won't have to pay the price of what the toll is that perfectionism typically takes on our lives and our happiness and our success. Because when we set out to be rigid about perfection, we tend to give up and not feel like we have the energy to pursue our goals because it seems daunting or overwhelming or, yes, unachievable or unrealistic. So please let me know how this goes for you guys. I'd love to hear feedback. I love hearing how these tools, these tips, these Facebook Lives are going for you. So feel free to reach out. Feel free always to say hi. You can email me. I'll attach my email here. You can call me. But be well. Feel free to send me tips if there's certain things that you'd like to hear about on Facebook Live. I'm happy to try to integrate those into the schedule. Just let me know. But get out there and remember, this is progress, not perfection. You can do it.